Hi, welcome to the show. Today, like I said last time, we're building a portable water system. So what it's going to be is a Rubbermaid cabinet. You can buy them at Home Depot, Lowe's, anywhere. And you can see in the top, you can see in the top I have 3 sinks. So these sinks I ordered off of eBay, cut the hole in the cabinet real easy. Just took a jigsaw, measured it out, cut it. You can see the 2 holes, that's where our taps are going to go in, and the 3 sinks. So what we do first is, so when you buy the sinks, you get the baskets for the sinks. It's the baskets. So they go on in your sink. So what we're going to need is we're going to need 3 of the drains. The hooks on your basket. We're going to need them. This adapts it to ASB. And then we go down to, on our first sink, we go down to a 90. So this will come off the first sink like this, on a 90. The next sink will come down and go into this T, and we'll continue on from the first sink. Then the last sink comes down into this T, and we go like this, and then we're going to go down into a drain. So it's very simple, very easy to do. So what we need to do first, we need to do some measurements. So we're going to pull our sinks out. Here's our sinks. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our baskets in our sinks. So once we get that done, we'll come back and we'll go from there. Okay, one of the problems with these sinks are insert pans for restaurants and that's what they make them out. They're very, very thin. Is that you get this washer with it that goes up on the bottom, so it makes a seal between the sink and inside of the sink for your basket. And the problem is the washer is not big enough. Now, I run into this before. So what you do is you go get yourself a bigger washer and you run both of them. Now, I got this over at Anderson Pump House. Them guys there, I do a lot of business with them for when I put these carts and these sinks together, and they're A1, boy. They have an answer and anything I need, they have it. So anyway, that's what you do. You got to get a bigger washer, then run the 2 washers together, and that will seal it. Another thing to do. This is your basket on the inside of the basket that goes against your sink. You got to run a bead of silicone, and then it's don't hurt to run a bead where you're putting your gaskets and your washers, and because it'll really prevent it from leaking. So anyway, let's install this one, and we'll get her done here. So what we're going to do is put the thicker washer in first, then the washer that came with the unit, and then we'll put the nut on. So now what we're going to do is we're going to run a little bit of silicone in there. Okay, so before we put this together, we're going to run a bead of silicone in on that basket. You're going to have enough silicone squeeze out on the back side here that it'll make a good seal. And you know, it's not like a sink in your house where you're washing dishes all the time and stuff like that. So it's not. Okay. I find the best thing to do is use a pair of needle nose pliers. stick in through the holes in your basket. The easiest way to do it is take a set of needle nose, stick through the basket, take your channel locks, and tighten her up. That's it. So we'll do the other two, and then we'll start installing the rest of the stuff. Okay, so our baskets are all in our sinks. Now we're going to put our drains on. This piece here, so what we have is this is going to go on. You have a small piece that goes on your basket, then this fits on, and then we have a piece that goes over top and threads on the basket that holds that on. So what's going on is this is too long. So what we're going to do, this is what we're going into right here. And then this is going to go to ABS 1.5" pipe. So we can be pretty tight on this. So I would say right about there. We'll cut this much off because in this cabinet we haven't got a lot of room because we got one tub that is going to be one jug is going to be for gray water. And what's going to happen is we have to have enough room from the plumbing on the bottom of the sinks for that tub or that jug to fit underneath, so we can run a pipe from our drains into it. So anyway, we'll cut these off and we'll be right back. Okay, so you can see we've got our baskets in, they're siliconed. We've got our drains on. Now this here is like a quick release. If you want to take your sinks out, you just unscrew this and it comes off. What it does is adapts it down to 1.5" ASB pipe. Here's our pipe. So what we're going to do now is this, we'll run this way. So this first one, so we're going to come off of this first one onto a 90. So we're going to 90 over this. Then this drain here is going to come in into a T, so it catches this sink and can bring us back over here. This one's going to go into a T also, so that one side of the T is going to come off of this sink. The other side of the T is going to catch these other two. The other side of the T is facing down is going to be your drains, all 3 sinks drains. Now what we want to do is we don't want this down very far. So we're going to measure this, I'd say maybe 4 inches will come down. Just about this far. We want it very close. So anyway, we'll cut some pipe and get it all set, and then we'll glue it together. Okay, here's our sinks up to this point. So what we have is we have 3 sinks. We're putting the drains on. So this one here is going to be a 90. Going to come off of this sink, tie into this T. This T catches this sink, comes out into this T. This T catches this sink and the other 2 and then drains. So now what we're doing is we're going to put the piece of pipe in between them. So what we have to do is we have to make sure it's the right length. So what we'll do is dry fit it, line it up, go in there, we can come out a little bit. Just like that right there. So there's how that's going to look. And then we're going to dry fit a piece, measure this, dry fit it, make sure it's right, and then we'll put it in. So anyway, what we're going to do now is cut this piece here. We'll dry fit them. Once we dry fit them, we'll come back and we'll glue them in. Okay, we got her all glued together. I had to do it fast because I didn't want her to stick on me. All right, so here's what we do now. We set that down on our drains. Then we just tighten these up. And that holds them on. And there she is. This is what it looks like. So what happens, it's going to go this way in our cabinet. This sink ties into this sink ties into here, ties into here. This here is going to drop down into our gray water tank. All right, so we'll just set the sinks aside. What we're going to do now is put in the taps. So here's a brand new set of taps. I picked these up at Home Depot, real good price, I think $19, and they're nice taps. Not a thing wrong with them, work the very best. And for this application here, we set them in the middle of the sinks. So this tap is in the center of our center sink. Then when we swivel this back and forth, it reaches all of our sinks. So it catches our sinks. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull this cabinet over a bit. I pre-drilled the holes already in the cabinet. So what happens is our taps set right down in the holes like this. These are fasteners. We just put them on here. And tie them, put them on, tighten them up. Okay, so we got our taps in. Now what we're going to do is we do all the work on these taps before we put our sinks in, because there's absolutely no room between this sink and that tap to get your hand up there to tighten anything up or anything like that. So these are tightened in real good. We want to make sure they're tight, because if they come loose, then we have to remove the sinks and everything else to get to them. We got braided supply lines. Okay, so we got hot and a cold. What we're going to do, we shouldn't need it with them braided lines, but what we're going to do is we're going to put just a little piece of Teflon tape on the threads of the tap, just to make sure it doesn't leak. So you can see I turned the cabinet on its back here, it's easier to get at. So this is the time to make sure it's tight. So what we're going to do, we got our supply lines on, we got it some tape on it. We're taking a wrench and we're just going to tighten these on, because if it leaks, we have to take a lot of stuff apart to repair it. So, and the thing about the braided lines, supply lines, is they got rubber washers in them. So when you put that tight and you got some Teflon tape on, she's not going to leak. So, all right, so they're tight. So this is our cold, this is our hot. So what we got to do with this hot one, so we got to put an extension on it, because it has to go through the side and it's going to tie into our hot water heater. So let me get the extension, get the coupling, and we'll put that together. Okay, so we got 2 holes drilled in the side where the hot water heater is going to hang on the outside. So we had to figure which hole was going to be for the one hot water coming to the tap. So what we have here is a coupling. We're going to put a little Teflon tape on it, and then we'll put her on one of the supply lines here, because what we're doing is the one we have is not long enough. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 together. Okay, all the parts we have here that we're using, I got them at Anderson Pump House. I buy every time I put a water system together, I go there. Them guys have everything you need. They know exactly what you're talking about. You go there, you get what you want. And you know, they're a bunch of nice guys. So if you need something to do with water, make sure you stop into Anderson Pump House. See Jason. Jason's a nice guy. He's one of the guys I deal with all the time there. And yeah, real nice guy. Anyway, so what we'll do is tighten this coupling on this supply line. Okay, what we're doing now is we're going to put the pump together, and then wire these this tap into the hot and cold. So what we have is we have a pump, a 12 volt, about 2.5 gallons per minute, 7.9 liters. So what we did is we're going to go rubber here, and we're going to tighten these in. So we Tefloned the tape, we Tefloned it. Now we're going to tighten it. You know, some things they say you don't need Teflon tape on, but I would use her because there's nothing worse when you kick this stuff all into gear and she starts leaking on you. So I always use Teflon tape, and let's put her all together. See what we're going to do. This pump is going to pull water out of a tank, a freshwater tank. It's going to go into a Y, or a T, I guess you'd call it. One side of the T is going to go to the cold water tap, because we just need whatever temperature the water is in that fresh water tank. And the other side of the T is going to go into our hot water heater, and then it's going to come up and feed the hot water tap. So here's what we're using for T. We just got pipe. It's just a pipe thread, and we're going to put some Teflon tape on this. Let me get her on. Like I say, for all what Teflon tape costs, I had to take a lot of stuff apart because I didn't put Teflon tape on it before. So we'll just put this into here. What we're going to do is take our channel locks. We'll hold this T with our channel locks. Put a crescent wrench on here and tighten this in. Okay, so there's the intake of our T done. So now, what we're going to do, this is what our supply lines. We work with braided supply lines. They're real nice stuff to work with. Never ever had any problem with them leaking or anything. So we'll put some Teflon tape on this connector. Like I say, this stuff here comes from Anderson Pump House. You can't beat the service over there. The guys are great. And the thing is, they spend the time, you tell them what you're doing, and if you don't know what you need, they certainly do. Anyway, we'll tighten this in there. And we'll take this one here, put a little Teflon tape on it. Like this. So these things sell for about $1,100 on eBay. You can believe that. The parts, you know, well, it's not really that far off, but then you got about $200 shipping. They always get you that way. They say it's $1,100, and then when you go to get it shipped, it's $200 for shipping, so you're paying about $1,300. Now I order my hot water heater off eBay or Amazon. I get these hot water heaters, sorry, and they're beautiful. I got about 10 of them out on different units that I have. Just as soon as you turn that tap for hot water, she's hot. Instant, propane, on demand, kicks in, and it is, they are a great hot water heater. And they're worth about $300 by the time you get them to your door. The pump is worth $70, so that's $370. The sink's worth about $140. Get this tight, there we go. So we got $300, $740, $500, so that's $510 with the sink. The taps are $20, $530. This stuff's all about $100. You can count $100 for all your fittings, stuff like that. So you're looking at about $800. You want to build it yourself, oh, cabinet's $60. So $850, say. You want to build it yourself, or you order it off eBay for $1,300. So there's our T. What happens here, this is plastic. This is going to take a just a hose that's going to go on with a pipe clamp. That's where our water's coming in. This side here we'll take out and we'll take this to the hot water heater. This side here goes directly up to the cold water tap. So here is our supply line for the cold water tap. So what we do is we're going to put some Teflon tape on this puppy. So we put the Teflon tape to her. Like that. So this here just fits on here like that. So we need our other pipe wrench. Put one pipe wrench on there. Another one on here, and tighten them up. So there's that. So there, cold water goes in here from our fresh water tank. Feeds up to our cold water. This one here is going to be our hot water. And that's this one. So we're going to put it through the hole. Bring it up. Put some Teflon tape on it. I'm going to put it on that. So we're putting Teflon tape on here for the hot water. Now this is going to go to the input on the hot water heater. We're going to put this on like this. That right there. There we go. So there's our tea. Now after a bit we're going to take this and we're going to strap these all up nice and neat in there. Put the pump on. So now we need our water line for our pump. Here it is here. So we look here and see which way our pump's flowing. So this is the intake here. Okay, so we got our clamps. What we're going to do now is we're going to put this on our intake. So like I say, you look at the arrows, see which way is intake. Back this off a little bit. Tighten her up. Don't need much. Okay, so this is going to go into our jug. So what we have to do now is we have to cut a little piece off to go between our pump and our tea. So we'll just take this, lock our knife down here, and we're just going to cut this off. So this piece here goes on the output of our pump, like that. Put a pipe clamp on it. You know, I always like to face the screws the same way when I put these pipe clamps on. It's so easy to get them turned around, but there we go. So this goes into our fresh water tank. The pump sucks it out, hooks on here. So what we'll do is we're not going to put it on this way, but I'll explain it to you. This is our T, then our hose goes on that T like that. You can see it goes on like this, and then feeds the hot water heater, feeds the cold. So now what we're going to do is we're going to install the hot water heater. This is the hot water heater. It goes on the outside of the tank, or outside of the cabinet. What we have here is we have water input. This is our input from cold water. This is the output. It's going to go to our tap. This is our propane, where our propane hooks up. This here, what goes on in here, is we put two D batteries in there. What happens is, when this thing senses water, when we turn our hot water tap on, the pump kicks on, sending water through this hot water heater. When it senses water going through it, it ignites, and the batteries is what runs the igniter. On the front here is you have your gas regulator and your water regulator. So this is how much water you want to go through. So you can turn this so there's not much water comes out this tap. So what you do is you set them to where you want it. This is your heat, how hot you want your water. So if you want your water scalding hot, turn her up. If you want it so you keep your hand under it, you know, you set it to wherever you want it. This light comes on when it's engaged. You can see the flame through here. There's a reflector that goes on the top, that because there's a lot of heat comes out of the top of this, because this is where the burners are in there. So what the reflector does, this is the reflector. Reflector goes on like this. So now reflects the heat away from your unit. Works real nice, beautiful hot water heaters. Anyway, so we'll get another pipe clamp, get it down in there, hook that up to our T, and then we'll install the hot water heater. This is the hot water heater secured on the side of the unit. The lines are not tied in yet, I'll tie them in. This is in the tank. I run a board across the back of the cabinet, and I screwed the pump to it. Now over here you can see our T's. This is our water lines, two water lines going out and through, and that ties into the hot water heater. The other line, you can see it right there, goes and ties into the cold water tap. Now in here, you can see through there, you can see a rubber hose coming from the pump. Well, that's our supply. This goes into this T here and then tees off to our cold and our hot. This line here, that goes in our fresh water tank. You can see here where it comes out. This sink catches into that one catches, and they all catch into that T. Now right here, there's going to be a pipe come down, and the pipe goes into our gray water tank. And the battery will fit in here.